Hi friends, today we're talking about Feeder, Just the Way I'm Feeling, a nice laid back track. If you're new to the drums, if you want to get into something that's pretty chill and easy to learn, this is perfect for you. There's nothing too complex in this, and like I say, it's a nice laid back track. If you want to grab the notation for free to follow along, there's a link in the description for you. There's a separate playthrough video as well up here, which I'll link to, also in the description below. And once you've seen that, you can follow along to this lesson and learn how to play just the way I'm feeling. This track is at around 89 BPM, just a smidge over, so I'm going to demo everything at that speed. There's nothing too complex, it's nice and laid back, like I said. So let's start off with the intro, which is eighths on the ride. Pretty much the whole track we're going to be playing eighths on the ride. And there's a very simple bass and snare pattern to go with it to get us started, which sounds like this. The first little transition we come to is a simple 4 and a on the snare, and then we crash into the second half of that pattern, which we loop a few times, and that sounds like this. The transition into the chorus is a fun one to play, and we play this a few times throughout the track. It's a nice bass, bass, ride, ride, bass, ride, ride, bass, crash. Sounds like this. We're then into the chorus, which is pretty similar to the verse, but we do add a little more action on the snare. So we're playing some of the offbeats on the snare as well to augment what we've already played. And the main groove for the chorus sounds like this. Into the chorus, the little transition we have here is basically from the snare to the mid-tom to the floor tom. We've got a little ghost bass note we can add in between the two snare and ride hits if we want as well, and that sounds like this. We then go back into the groove we were playing earlier up to the next transition, which is on the floor tom, but we also add in an extra bass, or we can do. That sounds like this. Down to the bottom of page 1 of the notation, and we do a very similar transition, but this time staying on the snare for the and a of 4. And then we go up to the top of page 2. And this is where we play the transition we played earlier with the bass, bass, ride, ride, bass, ride, ride, bass, crash. We then go back into the chorus, and the next transition we're actually playing from the floor tom, mid tom up onto the snare. So we're coming back up this way, and that sounds like this. On to the next line, and we have another little transition where we flam on the 3 with the snare. We then play on the and a 4 E and a. So we're playing snare, 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 mid, floor, floor. And a 4 E and a. Sounds like this. On the next line, after our 2 laid back crashes again, we have another little transition which is very similar from the snare onto the mid-tom down to the floor tom. The bass this time just leads into that, and that sounds like this. The next line has a nice laid back transition at the end as well, which is a fun one to play. We go from the ride and the bass on the 1, over to the crash and the snare on the and of 1. Then we play mid-tom, floor tom, flam on the snare into those 2 lazy laid back crashes. So that line sounds like this. So on the next line at the end of this section, we come to our only triplet, which is another fun one to play. We're crashing in on the 1 with the bass. We're playing and 2 on the ride with the snare on 2 as well. And then on the and of 2 is where we're playing our triplet. We're starting on the floor tom and we're playing just the first beat of the triplet on the floor tom and coming across for the final 2 of the triplet on the snare. And that takes us into the snare with the bass on 3, the crash on the and of 3, and then the final crash in this bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demo this nice and slow, actually at 60 BPM, so you can see what's going on. So this transition with the triplet on the and of 2 sounds like this. And if we play that at full speed, it sounds like this. So that is another fun one to play. We then have a 2-bar break, followed by 8 bars where we're just playing the ride on 2 and 4. Before we crash back into the chorus, play the same chorus groove as we did before, followed by a little transition, again, the same as we played before, snare, mid, floor, floor. Same chorus groove again up to the end of the piece, and the end of the piece we're going to run back up from the floor tom, mid tom, high tom, crash at the end. So that last line sounds like this. So there you go, that is Just the Way I'm Feeling by Feeder. Again, if you want to grab a copy of the notation, link in the description below for that for free. And if you want to let me know how you're getting on, or if you have any suggestions for other songs to cover, please do let me know in the comments. I'll leave a link in the description as well to the full playthrough of this so you can see how it all fits together. Otherwise, have fun on the drums and I will see you in the next one.